This is the Kenyan podcast, the number one trending and topical issues podcast in the 254. Hamjambo, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Kenyan podcast, the number one trending and topical issues podcast in the 254. I do hope that you're doing fantastic and you're happy to be with us on yet another beautiful episode where we get to show you a different side of this coin called the 254. So welcome, how are you doing? We do say karibu sana. I would like to know how you're doing. This is actually the third week of the year 2026. And the thing is, time actually flies, and right here on the Kenyan podcast, we do get to appreciate your company and your support. Since when we started this podcast, I would actually love to say thank you so much, asanteni sana, for your wonderful support, and also taking your time to join us and also to stream these particular episodes. Remember, you can find us on many platforms. We are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcast, we are also on Spreaker. You can find us on these many wonderful platforms. Just Google search and look for the Kenyan podcast. It will actually pop up, and you'll even find us on Angami as well. Happy New Year. I don't know if people are still saying Happy New Year. Hizo salamu za Happy New Year ni kama zimepitwa na wakati. I do not know, but I will still tell you Happy New Year. Sometimes you need time to regroup. We do say you call yourself for a small meeting, if I can translate that directly, that is the way you do say you're trying to regroup and you're trying to put your thoughts together, and that is why we are back after that a small regrouping session, and we are happy to be with you. There has been so many things going on. Kuna vitu mingi sana zimekuwa zikiendelea, and most of them are just to do with Kenyan politics. The thing is, Kenyan politics, you do find that it's very, very interesting, because you would find that it's like a soap opera. Sometimes that some things are unexpected. Sometimes people want to play from the old playbook. Sometimes people want to improvise, and you really never know what to expect with Kenyan politics. But right here, as we are on the Kenyan podcast, we are always happy and glad to come and shed light on what is going on with that. As it is, or as we have seen, you realize that right now parties are trying to regroup and reorganize and restructure as they try to get ready and organized for the elections 2027. And therefore, we have seen even grassroots elections of officials in different parties. For example, with UDA, there has been different elections going around the country for the at the grassroots level for the party, so that they can have the officials. And of course, I think that is in line with the Political Parties Act and what is expected of them. And UDA is trying to position itself, as a very powerful party, as compared to the counterparts. If you look at ODM is a party that was celebrating 20 years. Sometimes before Raila passed on, they were celebrating, they're having their 20th year celebration. And what you realize for the grassroots elections, I think they are also mad with a whole lot of shenanigans and a whole lot of confusion in many cases, because you will find, for example, if it's one post or if it's one position, you might find about 20-something people vying for this particular post. And therefore, there is a whole lot of confusion, even when it comes to how the campaigns are done at the grassroots levels. It becomes a little bit confusing, and there might also be the element of favoritism at different levels. But anyway, when we talk about elections 2027, I think there have been someone who has been quote-unquote a whistleblower, and I'm talking about Kalonzo Musyoka. Kalonzo Musyoka has been very keen on how things are being organized as we head towards the 2027 elections. He has raised many concerns, for example, with the companies that get to give the technology, or that get to sell the technology to Kenya to man the elections. And he was actually saying that there has been doubt about the interference, the level of interference, because he did say even last with their last elections, there was a possibility of interference even from as far as Venezuela, because I understand that some of these equipment or some of these systems that were involved in conducting the last election in Kenya. There were officials from Venezuela who are said to have who are said to have had access, allegedly had access to the systems. And Kalonzo and his team are actually saying that these systems could be interfered even from outside Kenya. But for me, I always do get to ask myself. There was a very very critical question I had to ask myself. Why is it that you buy systems that have to that become defunct in about 5 years? Every election you have to buy new systems. Every election cycle you have to buy new systems, and even comparing to other countries that have bigger populations, for example, India, the USA, and Nigeria, and other countries, you do find that Kenya's elections happens to be one of the most expensive in the world. When it comes to the logistics, when it comes to the systems that are involved, when it comes to other components, it becomes very, very, very expensive. And most of the time, you find that the outcome, the opposition will always have a case to take to court after the elections have actually been concluded. So what can we do better? That is my question for you. What can we do better in terms of our preparedness towards the 2027 elections? That is my question for you today. What do you think would be done different this particular time from what was done in 2022? What do you think ought to be done different this year as compared to the other year, 2022? I would love to know your opinion. You can always share your opinion on our social media platforms. We are at the Kenyan Podcast on Twitter or X. You can find us on the Kenyan Podcast on Facebook, as well as on Instagram, and even on YouTube. You can write an email to us, kenyanpodcast@gmail.com, and that we would be glad to hear from you all, get your opinion. Moving a little bit fast forward from that, there has been a new program which is known as Nyota. And this is a youth empowerment opportunities program that has been spearheaded by the government. And youth are actually getting a total of 50,000 shillings to start up businesses or to even expand their businesses. And this is a program I do believe has, the intentions are good. But always, even if the intentions are good, the way things are executed in Kenya, for example, there was, what was the other youth fund? There was a youth fund some years back. And then this youth fund, at the end of the day, we heard that money had been squandered and there wasn't any accountability. I don't even think anyone was taken to jail for this particular whole matter. But now we do have this new program. The government has, led by the president, they have been popularizing it. Recently, they were in Samburu and in Laikipia. And they were trying to make this particular government initiative popular with the people and saying this is going to be a game changer. Oh, we promised you with bottom up, you're going to help the people who are at the bottom, the youth, and give them opportunities to start out businesses and this and that. But for me, I do believe, even if the intention is actually right, that most of the time the way the things are actually executed, you're told you're going to get some training, this money will be given according to this and that. There are parameters as to how this particular money is going to be allocated. But when it comes to that, you do find that the execution is a bit shaky. But apart from that, there is also the element of being the whole program being politicized. If you are aligned to this particular political movement, then it becomes that you can have an access, or you can have better access to these particular funds, and it ought to be accessed by anyone, not just because you're closer, or the local MP, or you're member of his party, or things like that. That should be for everyone, even if you do not have any political, you're not aligned to any political party. That is the way things ought to work. But yes, let's give this time. I think by the time we are getting to the month of March, we shall have a proper review of how things are going with that. And we shall be able to put you on spot, up to date with what is happening with that particular issue. Anyhow, moving away from matters politics and also what is going on in the country, I just want to touch a little bit on what is going on with the sports in Kenya. We have seen the lack of sponsorship, the lack of sponsorship and lack of support for athletes becoming a major challenge or becoming a major hurdle for these particular athletes. Because if you look at, for example, one of the most talented sports athletes, this is a tennis star. She goes by the name Angela. I think her name is Angela Okutoi. She was on social media the other day. There was a bit of an interview. She was interviewed by, I think, a journalist or someone, and she was talking about the challenges that she's facing right now. And she was saying that she does not have sponsorship, and it becomes very, very difficult. It becomes very, very difficult to get anything out of the sport if you're not able to go to these particular tournaments and participate in these tournaments, or if you are not able to have even logistics. You have to go travel. Maybe these tournaments are actually going on in Canada, or maybe in the US, or maybe in Australia and in other countries, or even in Italy, but you're not able to travel. It becomes very, very difficult. But then after the attention that was came about because of our ex, and Kenyans actually talking about it, the Ministry of Sports, I do believe, there was an official from the Ministry of Sports saying that they are going to engage with her to see how they can help or how they can sponsor. And for me, I do think we do not have to wait until sportsmen and women are suffering. And I would say they are recognized. I think she's a Wimbledon champion. I think twice in terms there's a ranking, there's a category that she runs, or she's a winner in one of those particular categories. But then again, even if you've gone outside, you've played, you represent your country, you represented yourself, you do not get proper support from your country. But then again, she was thanking Kenyans, and she put a tweet thanking Kenyans, and she did say she was grateful to Kenyans because of bringing that particular attention to the matter. Which is actually also a thing that I hope that things work out for her, even as she continue to make the country proud. This is a Kenyan podcast, the number one trending and topical issues podcast in the 254, hosted by Spikes. And as always, it's a delight to have you tune in. And maybe perhaps I would love to interact and know more from how you're doing, and maybe perhaps where you're tuning from. You can always write to us and let us know how things are going on your side. Do you think our athletes are getting enough support, not just from the government, but even from the corporate sector? Because I do think, for example, for Angela, she presents a very, very wonderful opportunities for corporates like Safaricom, like Kenya Airways, like Equity Bank, like Cooperative, like KCB, all these different other entities to give her support and see that she gets to a level where she ought to get to, because she has a whole lot of potential, and I don't know why. I think the same also happened. There was a sports competition for drafts. Is it called drafts? Darts. Sorry, darts, not drafts. Darts. The darts game. But one of the players from Kenya didn't have any sponsorship. And I would understand. Not just that, even in rallies, like the safari rallies, there's a whole lot of people who have wonderful talent, but they lack the backup that they need for them to be able to put the sport to the next level, where the fruits of their labor can actually be seen, and also they would represent themselves and make the country proud and make themselves proud. But the lack of adequate support becomes a very, very big challenge. But talking motorsports, or keeping motorsports, there is a tournament coming up. They had the rugby series. The rugby series tournament. It's scheduled for February 14th and 15th at the Nyayo Sports Stadium, and you can get your tickets at Tico Hub. If you're a rugby fan and you're looking for the action this particular year or this season, I think that would be wonderful. If you're looking for the place to go out and enjoy these sports, Kenyan rugby is something. It's quite something. And Kenyan rugby also at some point they had struggles with sponsorships, but I think this year hopefully things will work out and go great in 2026. But then again, that is the way things are. This is a Kenyan podcast, the number one Kenyan topical issues podcast in the 254. And talking matters 254, we also have to touch on what is happening with our neighbors. Recently, Uganda went into an election, and we all knew, most of us knew, or probably if you follow Ugandan politics, you knew what was going to happen with the outcome. Museveni won, yes, once again, continuing with his rule of the country for over 40 years. And the internet was shut down. For me, when I do see some of these things going on, I do call them the shenanigans. I tend to think that the government makes Uganda look like a banana republic, because the internet is shut down. People are not allowed to share what is happening. When it comes even to foreign observers, they are not allowed into the country to go and do a follow-up of what is going on. And the problem is that people want to know what is going on, and people want to see how the process is actually undertaken. But then again, it's like you want to do it on the side, you want to do it in the dark, and there is a whole lot of suspicion on what is going on, and a whole lot of speculation, because with the speculation, we want to know how are the votes tallying going on, how are the votes how are the reporting of the votes being done, how is the transmission of the votes being done to the National Tallying Center, if it happens the same way it happens in Kenya. But then again, even for activists, they were not allowed into this particular country. We also saw the same happening in Tanzania. So we are wondering if they are to read from the same playbook, that might also happen in Kenya. So we are personally, I would be very, very concerned to see that there is transparency, because for the election in Uganda, and even perhaps I would say the same for Tanzania, there wasn't much transparency when it comes to the observation that was being done from the outside. And that is my main concern. For Kenya, we do have an election coming up next year. We do have what you call the united opposition. I don't know how united the opposition is. But then again, we are looking forward to see how things pan out. And there was also the reporting of that the opposition leader in Uganda, that is Bobi Wine, Bobi Wine had actually been arrested and taken by the security forces. That was also another big issue, and that was also denied by the security forces in Uganda. And therefore, there's a whole lot of back and forth. The government says this, what is being reported on the ground is this, and there's a whole lot of back and forth with that. But yes, this is a Kenyan podcast. Let me know how you feel. Are Kenyan sports men and women or athletes are getting enough support as they ought to? And also the other question was, what can be done better in terms of the upcoming elections in 2027, and what can we learn from 2022 and improve on, because we need to be at the right footing when it comes to the elections in 2027, because Kenya is actually proud to be one of the countries that has stabilities in this region in terms of economic and political stability. And if we do not get it right in 2027, that will actually mar our image, and it will actually take us way back. We keep on getting told that this country is getting ahead. You want to be like Singapore and all these other things that are said. But if we are not in our right footing when it comes to the elections in 2027, then I will actually promise you for free that we are going to be at a disadvantage, a very big disadvantage in terms of standing politically, economically, and other ways. We might be at a loss if we do not get it right. And there are many questions. For example, I have said that the former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, he has raised many concerns. Some of these concerns seem to be falling on deaf ears. It seems like, no one really cares about that. You can continue yapping from around there, and as we continue with this particular way, you shall not deter us from doing what we are doing. And I think there should be a consensus. I think that there should be an agreement so that everyone is also on the same page, however difficult that might be. But I think it would be very important that Kenyans are actually on the same page when it comes to matters election and the preparedness of the election towards 2027. That is my personal opinion. Let me know what you feel. This is the Kenyan Podcast, and we are glad that you have taken your time to join us right here on the Kenyan Podcast, the number one trending and topical issues podcast in the 254. There has been many things going on. I don't know if we've been promised that the youth are going to get 6,000, that the government is looking for 90,000 to give 6,000 a month and undertake and undergo training for a couple of months and get certificates. Those are the people maybe perhaps who dropped off. They were not able to get their certificates, but they have skills. They have been learning as mechanics, electricians, and other things like that. But there's a whole lot of things going on in the beautiful country. But let's keep it Kenyan Podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share with a friend, and also make sure you invite a friend to join us on the other subsequent episode by sharing a link with them. Much peace and love. Till next time, I would want to wish you a happy and a productive week ahead. Stay Kenyan, stay peaceful, stay optimistic, and stay focused on your grind. Till next time, much peace and love. Kwaheri.